You'll have the quotes. Okay. All right, we're good. We're good. You can just send that over to me so I can have it for tomorrow night. I'm still trying to balance that, and I'm never going to balance them because what I've realized is the need here is different than the need there. But I'm trying to create some threads so it makes it easier. Yeah, so it makes it easy on me, because I mean, shoot, the way I just preparing for this alone can take anywhere from 65 to 70 hours. And probably reading maybe 65 articles and 35 books for a 40-minute class, let alone trying to find slides. Like Mimi just helped me find some slides because now we're still able to put the PowerPoint up to the nation. Okay, so let's make, you ready? We're good. Okay, so yeah, and I don't care about them hearing it because they can hear it because I try to have transparency. So instead of cookie cutting, you're always preparing something from stress. Lord, I was in speech therapy as a kid, and I'm still struggling with the S's from, what is it, scratch? Yeah, I tear up the S group. Don't, that's probably them bad four-letter words that I can say without a problem. But when I say things like strategic strategy and strategy, I don't even know why I named my company The Scratch. See how I just add up? It just, Jesus, help a brother. And people think I'm so smart. They never know it. And they think I'm not. I don't know that we lie, but I know that we lie. But it's okay. That's why you got to be careful. Come on, my Dallas Cowboys. Got to be careful. People telling lies on you saying you had a party with all these people. They just mad because they couldn't come to the party. All right. Our church anthem, I am the seed, that grows and advances the kingdom for soul winning. This word, bread of life, that I received today, not only for me, but to be shared with others, that they may grow in Christ as well as myself for the purpose of successful living. Thank you. We're going to continue to deal with our past scripture about the 5 wise and the 5 foolish. But what I want to do is welcome all of you here at the Greenwood campus, and for those that are joining us from the Greenville campus and to our virtual campus participants, we're so happy for you, and we're grateful and thankful for the growth in the numbers of like, shared, posts, all those things. Please continue to do it. I think now with all the technology, there's something like a link. Please share it. I don't mind the criticism. Criticism is a part of destination. And if you didn't have critics, watch this now, you wouldn't have anybody's attention. So if you have a critic, that means you have someone's attention. So never fight your critics and don't try to justify what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. Because if you wasn't doing anything, you wouldn't have a critic. You wouldn't have a critic. It's the same thing with your spiritual walk with Christ. You have to understand that if you are trying to make progress, you're going to meet resistance. That resistance isn't in flesh and blood. That resistance is in your destiny of a stumbling block or a boulder that is trying to keep you from there. So when I use the anthem, it's my way of getting in the zone of how to help people of faith, people to encourage, and for people to grow in life as well as Christ. This is why I always say at the end, for the purpose of successful living. So in doing that, where we're going this evening in our lesson in talking about the 5 wise and the 5 foolish, and I need a little bit more in the back because I feel naked right now. We have to understand that there's a couple things that we have to detox ourselves of. So I'll go back to this, and also welcome to our international community and global partners. We are serving and praying for all of the healing of our nations through this COVID-19 pandemic, to all those that are affected with family members. We have members in Ohio waiting to get a response. One of our brothers lost his son, who's in his 40s, and don't know the cause of it yet, but keep them in prayer. We have other members in the Greenville campus who've lost their father as well to COVID-19 and other complications. So to all the industry workers, the service workers, the co-workers, first responders, healthcare workers, know that we're continuing to pray for you. We don't take the social distancing lightly. We're trying to abide by all the rules and to our nations, and we pray that we all have a speedy recovery. And there are those that, even in a time like this, have asked how do they contribute to the ministry, and you can do that through houseofreconciliation.org. You can do that also through our Cash App, and I've forgotten, we've had it for some time, but we have a Cash App, $GVILLE, Greenville House. But don't spell out Greenville, GREENVILL. It's a short version, GVILLE, Gville, $Gville, and look for the logo. Now, y'all criminals, don't put up our logo right now. Y'all wait. But some people have asked, or you can go to houseofreconciliation.org and give on the website, and we thank you in advance. I want to talk to you this evening about 3 words. Those 3 words are fantasy, fiction, and facts. And of course, with my mind, one other word just came up, faith. So that'd be another, we can't put it in now, that's lie, but we'll have it next time. Here's what we have been dealing with, and I started this at the beginning of the year, talking about stopping stagnations and complacency. We've dealt with the looking to establish a path forward. I said this earlier, everything that evolves goes through a level of resistance. If you really want to come up, now, I'm going to go ahead and say this early into the presentation. You can't come up and remain the same. You cannot be in the wilderness and the promised land at the same time. We're going to have to know we cannot split who we are. As the Bible says, how can a person serve 2 masters? Either you're going to have to want the life you believe you can live, or you stay frustrated in the life that you already have. I'll say it again. You have to either believe in the life that you can have, or you settle to stay frustrated in the life that you do. You can't say that we want promises. We can't say that we want to be successful. We can't say that we want to accomplish these things, and yet do the very same thing that keeps us in a negative zone. It just don't happen. You cannot crank a car with 2 negatives. One has to have power over the other. So when we look at it, and I say, if you really want to come up, you're going to have to take steps, processes. That's what a lot of people don't want. I may be wrong, but I think that the children of Israel, God's people, were 2 full days, maybe 2 days and a half away from the promised land. And yet it took 40 years. So there's a couple things we want to deal with here in the 5 wise and the 5 foolish. Is the simple fact they all were on the same line, but their thought patterns, you got to be careful how you feed your mind. We talked last evening when we were here, and here's a scriptorial part for you. If you would like to go to Proverbs 23:7, you can just write it down if you're taking notes. It says, as we think, so shall we be. For as he thinketh in his heart. Your heart is linked to 3 things: your mind, your spirit. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. And I, of course, in my studies, and I was saying earlier, was talking to a gentleman here. I was saying to him earlier, here's the greatest challenge of information. Is we can give you information. There are people that can give you information. But do you know the greatest rejection of information? Does anyone know what it is? Attitude. If a person has an attitude, it does not matter what you say, when you say it, how you show it, they have an attitude. Now, let's go to the first slide. When a person has an attitude, they don't realize that they have created an invisible enemy. Because an attitude would just come out of nowhere. And it doesn't really come out of nowhere. It has been hidden somewhere because someone is not balanced in their life. So it becomes an invisible enemy. Because whatever they've been thinking, whatever they have consumed, whatever they have allowed to make an impression on them, It's a shame you tell somebody something that, hey, on Thursday we need to do A, B, and C. And here comes Thursday, and you've told them, you've texted them, you've emailed them, you've left them a note, and here it is on Thursday at the exact same time that you need to do it. And they'll look you in the face and say, I don't know nothing about it. The attitude will block every learning ability that a person could have. This is why the 3 words that we want to deal with this evening, don't know if we're going to get to all 3 of them, is fantasy. See, if you can be walking in an everyday life and literally be stuck in a fantasy. Can you read that? We become what we what?
What we think about the day long.
See, now this goes to a particular scripture, and you just write this one down. You don't have to look it up right now. Matthew 12:45. It says, then goeth he and taketh with himself 7 other spirits more wickeder than himself. What happens is, Satan just don't leave you alone, and Satan don't take a vacation when you go to church. Satan waits on the outside and becomes the invisible enemy. He knows your past, he knows your appetite, and he plans to take those 2 things and manipulate you in your present. And if he can manipulate you in your present, now you are stuck in mud and cannot move forward. And the first thing you do is shut down the ability to comprehend. And when you do that, guess what happens? You foster an attitude that's not needed at this time. This is why it says we become what we think about all day. Satan just don't. When he gets your attention, tell me, when does he let it go? Most people who think negative don't turn around and become positive. Now, here's what they'll do. They'll fake it. Fiction. Oh, yeah, we're going to do that. Yes, we can do that. We can do that. No, you can't do that. So now let's go to the next slide. Because what they're doing, not only are they faking it, they are fantasizing. So now watch this. They're speaking to you unconsciously. Y'all didn't get that one. There was a man at my house that was working on my stuff, and out of the blue, he told me he was coming on Saturday to do some stuff out of his mouth, and I'm thinking, you work on Saturday. No, I'm going to come Saturday afternoon, I'm going to do this and do this and do this. And then when I talked to him about it later, he said, I said that. Do you not know you can talk out of your subconscious? And your conscious mind does not know that your mouth is running? Because we're not going to call him out. James Calvin Williams, y'all don't know him. We're not going to call him out. Stood out there and told me, oh, yeah, I'm going to be here. And I'm thinking, he works on the weekend. And he just started. And he just started. I didn't ask him nothing. He just started talking. How many people have told you things? See, here's the problem. They left you with an unreality because you yourself has bought into a fantasy that had no substance to it. The terms in the Bible calls it imagination. I think it's one text that said casting down every imagination, because imagination doesn't have substance. Write down that. Imagination doesn't have substance. You need something of substance in your life. Hallucination and imagination will cause a person to believe in something that's not real, and yet they cannot deal with the reality of the pain that they're in. And pain should not be the only thing that gets your attention. Does this make sense? So Proverbs 23:7, as we think, as we go, and this is what we talked about last Tuesday, is avoiding instant replay. How many times has your mind taken you on a journey that you talk to yourself and you talk to the spirits in your head and you want to be successful? I heard Les Brown say it this way: you need to do today what people won't do, and you'll have tomorrow what people can't have. None of that can happen without adaptation. You have to adapt to it. And it goes back to the things that you wrote for me. You first of all got to hear it. then you got to receive it. And if there's any kind of clog in between those two, you are talking with consequences, but no substance. And this is what happened to the 5 foolish. They knew the goal. You want your kids to go to school, but you won't do what parents do to prepare their kids to go to school. Listen, it's one thing to tell them, and it's another thing to hold them accountable. And so when you are met with resistance, you drop accountability and you let people and things have their way, and you expect to get to the finish line. It won't happen. It won't happen. Because while people are on the fantasy and playing games, there are people that are teaching their children how to invent and create games and how to improve games. While you're buying a car, someone's inventing a car. They're improving upon what's already there. You got to know, you got to determine how you want to think going forward. If you want to be in a fantasy world, that you want to put more into a car than you put into a house, watch out. There are people that have put $10,000 in a car, buying certain things and putting them on the car, but won't put a dime on their house and won't buy a house. Oh, it must be tight now. Well, since it's tight, we may as well go on and tighten it up, because the next 20 minutes, I'm going to cut everybody's hair off. People tell me, I need to get my hair done. I need to go to the barber. We're going to be shaved when we finish it. Somebody said, you finna eat this cake out of made. Instant replay, because we ought to be tired of the Ferris wheel and tired of the circles that never lets us in. We're always in constant moves and switching. So then this is when we're hallucinating. Because what happens is, now watch this. Avoiding instant replay. I said this last week, it will cause one to stagger. But listen to this, the attitude will lock down everything and cause one never to hear. And if you can't hear, you can't listen. This is what I have against struggle and survival. I want to know, how do you crack the code that you realize that you will never be happy if you continue to see everything through struggle and through survival. There would never be enough for tomorrow if you can't plant today. So here's what it says. Now let me show you what made me go here. 46 million Americans have college credits, but no degree. How many times have you quit on yourself? How many times have you quit on yourself? How many times have you said, I'm going to do this, but never did it? And you wonder why your children, you wonder why your spouses, you wonder why your co-workers never take you serious. They all have one common thing. They just talking. They're not going to do it. You know why? You don't manifest the behavior of getting it done. Can I make it plain? Because, and you can put me up in the box, but let's go ahead and read this. It says what? Fiction? Fiction reveals the truth. Reality obscures. See, fiction tells you what you want to see. You see, this is why I have it in here. Let me see where it's at. It's a little lower. It's a little lower. It's a little lower. It's a little lower. I hope I get there. Oh man, I knew I should have put it on here. It'll come to me. I know what it is. I just don't want to tear it up. I'm bad about tearing up stuff. I don't want to tear it up. Somebody said, don't tear it up, Pastor. Don't tear it up, Pastor. Don't tear it up, Pastor. Don't tear it up. See, when you live in a fictional world, which is a non-reality world, you only believe what you want to believe. And I've said this to deacons, the deacons in training. I've said this to corporate people. 99% of what you see is wrong. A person is carrying out their agenda. rather than the principles of the company, rather than the mission of the company. And if you follow that path, you will be no different than the person that you perceive. Because we're bad about taking something and making it our own. So then we create our own way, our own brand. You need to do that in your entrepreneurship. You don't do that in business and corporate America. And if you're going to be successful, you can't build you have to build the brand. Does that make sense? This is why it's called acting and actors. They have created and learned how to play a character very well, but the character they play is not who they are at home. I give you one, and this is old. Used to be the Clampets, used to be the Beverly Hillbillies, and there were 2 or 3 actors on there could never get another job because people pigeonholed them to be this one thing. I think it was Jeffro, I think it was Ellie Mae. They could not break that character mold. And see, when you live in a fictional world, when reality brings back the pain, you can never move forward. You didn't see it as a stepping stone. You saw it as a mountain. And every time that you have an issue or a problem, if you see it as a mountain, then you don't know how to climb. If you see it as a stepping stone, if you see, and I said this, and I don't know if I wrote it down. People don't want to move forward because they feel like they're stuck in pain. But see, pain should become an experience that now teaches you how to remove yourself from the pain. If you learn the principles will take you beyond the pain, and now you can learn the lesson. If you're still stuck in pain, you've not identified what's causing the pain. So then you cannot overcome the pain. So then you will continue to live in a fixated world. You'll continue to think you can walk on water. And literally what we do is we drown ourselves. And I was concerned when I heard the statistic that 46 million Americans have college credits but no degrees. We have to learn how to close the circle. If we don't close the circle, we open the gate of drowning. This is why I say the invisible enemy. I become what I think and process. We have to learn the difference between fantasy, fiction, and facts. Let me tell you one thing about facts. Facts don't have any sugar in them. Facts don't take a side. Facts just tell the truth. Next slide. We live in a fantasy world, a world of illusions. The great task in life is to find the reality. We need to quit running away from the reality. I'll tell you why. When we seek change and desire, something new must be realized. It is not going to be a walkover. What are you saying? Are you willing to pay the price to be who you believe you can become? I'll say it again. Are you willing to pay the price to be who you believe that you really can become? I'll say it again. Are you willing to pay the price? Because if you're willing to pay the price, it means that you're willing to put down the foolishness, the hallucination, the imagination. You will deal with the reality of the situation, and you will strengthen yourself, and the situation will strengthen you, and you will forge forward. You cannot forge forward pulling back and living in denial of the reality that you deal with. And the attitude that we all can get at any second can hinder the opportunity of getting the proper direction. Next slide. And I'm going to say this, and I've said this to some people and they've gotten it and some people haven't. There are times when we have too many windows open to fully operate in consistency and productivity. I said again, there's sometimes in your life you have too many windows open. Because we're trying to make everything work. And sometimes where we're in is not working. It's one of the greatest falls of man is trying to make everything fit him rather than him fitting the things that he wants to be. So we're going to have to come out of that bubble. You can be a caterpillar looking up at the sky and see a butterfly. But unless you go through what the butterfly has gone through, you will always be looking up when you have the same DNA in order to fly. And I'm not going to say I dislike the scripture, but it's not one of my favorite scriptures, Numbers 13 and 33, because we see ourselves. As long as you see yourself as less. Now watch this. As long as you see yourself as less, you will not inherit the best. Ask me why. You won't know what to do with it when you receive it. See, because we want to wait till the paper is signed and the ink is dry, and then we want to go somewhere and get ourselves together. You need to start getting yourself together now. So when we come out of this pandemic, you will not be the same dysfunctional person that you have been, including me. But until I deal with my reality and say to myself, I don't want to be one of the 46 million. So you're not alone in the disaster era. A lot of things happen, but here's the point. What was your plan B? Because in life, there's going to come a time that you're going to have to dig yourself out. No one's coming to rescue you. No one. It's time to grow up. The Bible says when I was a child, I spake as a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. There's some foolish, ignorant, dysfunctional behaviors we need to leave in right now. We need to learn how to let that go. You cannot be successful being stupid. I know that didn't go over well. I didn't mean that, y'all. I'm trying to become politically correct, and I'm not doing such a good job. Y'all continue to pray for me, my strength in the Lord. Yeah, but I get those bougie people, and they're like, oh my God, he called someone stupid. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm really not sorry. I'll say it if it makes you feel better. But the truth of it is, any sensible person will know that they have had stupid ideas, stupid ways, stupid behavior, stupid habits. Do I know?
It didn't have a profit on that.
Yeah, and it hadn't profit you anything. If I'm gonna be stupid, I gotta make money. Yes, I gotta make money. People say, I'm a comedian. I don't think I could just tell jokes. I just look at everybody laugh. I'm like, I'm not a jokester. I don't know where jokes come from. If I knew where they came from, I'd make money off of them. I can't find them. Boy, if I could find them though, I clone myself. I'd be in Hollywood and in the church. Here's what we said. Here's what happened. When we seek change and desire, something new must come to realization that we cannot walk over. We will have to deal with the obstacle course and the challenges, of closing the circle. This is when I talk about we have too many windows open. And sometimes our attitude will cause us to have windows open, and sometimes our attitude will devalue the very thing that's trying to lift us up. Why criticize the elevator that can take you up and you don't want to take the stairs? If the elevator can take you up, get your musty behind on the elevator and shut your mouth and have faith to go up. If you don't want to walk the stairs, don't criticize the elevator. You've seen people do that. They criticize them. And get to the fifth step. Well, somebody else on it now. Does this make sense? Somebody say with me, I have to close the windows
I have to close the windows
in order to operate in my gift consistently. We have to stop playing. Here's a new word for you. We have to stop playing the temporal game. Do you know what the temporal game is? People will generally accept facts as truth only if the facts agree with what they already believe. And the reason this slide is up is very good. You're going to have to believe something bigger than yourself. You're not going to know where everything is. You're not going to know everything. It doesn't matter if you worked on that job 20 years. There's some people that can come along and show you a better process. Listen to what I wrote. We have to stop playing the temporal game, which is our feelings, our emotions, and playing the role of a victim. Most victims turn into predators. And the short game, as the five foolish did, is they were led by their own imagination. And so what happens is, when you do that, you're in one of these three characters: feelings, emotions, and victim. The short game will have you seeking to get immediate gratification. See, you could have doctoral capabilities, but if you don't have doctoral kind of substance, you cannot reach doctoral capabilities. So what are you saying? If your short game is led by your emotions, your feelings, and being a victim, you will never learn how to play the long game. Because to play the long game, you realize other people's gratification today is not your celebration. This is why I say, don't believe everything you see, because what you see will look like it's on top of the world, and here it is. It is for them, but it's the bottom of the world for you. Because it all boils down to changes, and many people have walked away from the process of God and being faithful for the immediate gratification of the flesh. I'm not going to wait on God. I'm going to make it happen because I want it to happen, and I want it to happen now. I'm going to quit school because I just want a job. Listen, you can go talk to 46 million Americans, and most of them have jobs. But now many people are realizing they're not going to have the same job they have. One, because of this pandemic. Two, because of the evolution of technology. And so now, where you are comfortable for 20 years, you're about to become uncomfortable. Because animation is taking over. So and here's the point. Where you are today, you may have enough to survive and struggle. But God didn't send Jesus to the cross to die for you to survive and struggle. Because if you're surviving and struggling, you have nothing to plant. And I go back to the Joseph principle that I talked about last week. Joseph saw and interpreted the king's vision and said, you're going to have 7 prosperous years, and then you're going to have 7 years of famine. And so while you are prospering now, while you're young and innocent, and you're least distracted, and it's amazing how our youth is more distracted now. They don't cut grass, they don't paint the house, they don't pressure wash nothing. They just lay up and play games for 10 and 12 hours. And you want somebody to marry that clown? You want somebody to marry that young lady who don't know how to wash dishes, male or female? You want somebody, because everybody needs to know how to wash dishes. Every house, you may not get a house with a dishwasher. You may not get a house with a, what do they call it? A washer and a dryer. Lord, I was the clothes hanger man. My sister would wash them. I would take those wet clothes and go out. You all don't know nothing about, what do they call them? Clothesline pins. You don't know nothing about clothesline pins. Some of y'all be sneezing, going, I can't. It didn't matter what I had to hang them clothes. And the worst thing you can do is hang clothes and see your family underwear. You're like, oh, Jesus, no, Jesus, no. No, Jesus, no. I don't want to hang clothes no more. You had your colors and your whites. They scarred a lot of us children going to the clothesline. Don't nobody want to see their papa's underwear. And then nobody wear colored underwear back then. They were all white. Scarred for life. It's a shame what you had to do going to the clothesline. You try to hang them up and don't even look. Just there. But see, y'all young folks, y'all don't know nothing about that. Y'all ain't got no clothesline. How many of y'all got a clothesline in the back of the house? Oh, that clothesline. I mean, my God, we don't have a clothesline. So who would have a clothesline? I live in a neighborhood that is against the HOA to have a clothesline. I tell you what, we lose power. Everybody gonna be having a clothesline. Stuff gonna be hung on a tree, on a car. Gonna have rocks on your underwear. Oh, my dry. All your underwear gonna be. You don't have no big bloomers. They allowed to fly. Be flying a kite. Just put a string on it. See, there's a difference between immediate gratification and delayed gratification. Delayed gratification, the long game. The long game. This is what the 5 wise did. The long game. They were creative. They created a strategy and a plan that will bring long-term success. If you always struggle, you always survive, you can never invest. All you got to do is look around. And I think it's sad because in the economy, back when I came along, you can start working at 15. And they want you to retire at 65. That's what they want you to do. But here's the real caveat. When you hear people say, I can't retire, do you know what they're really saying? I am unprepared. Now here's the caveat. This is between the immediate gain, and we had a conversation, the immediate gratification and the long term, okay? Delayed gratification. Immediate gratification, your needs were met today, but you never prepared for tomorrow. The long game is that you made more than what you needed, so now you can store up. So now as you've gotten older, you have something to fall back on. Education, investments that will keep you going in your slower years. Does this make sense? Because if you just take the job with no benefits and you want all your money, this is why people 65, 67, 70 years old are struggling. They don't have a house. They have landlords. Yes, and some of them still have large payments because they waited too long. Because here's what happens when you're in your 20s. You think you got to your 40s. Your 40s will show up on you so quick. I'm 12. I ain't got nothing to worry about. Mom and Dad are going to take care of me. Ha ha! Believe that if you want to. They barely can take care of themselves. They surviving with you. They looking at each other every day. Why did we do that? I don't even like you. You don't even like me. Why did we do that? And you just run around eating Oreo cookies and ice cream and snacks and just think you living large. I'm just being honest. So here's the point. Short and temporal keeps us in a half a circle. Here is what I was looking for as I get ready to close and try to get ready for Greenwood tomorrow. Now this is going to shock somebody. Go ahead. Is this? Yeah. Facts. Remember when I said, be careful what you see? This is what I wrote. Understanding what we see can blind us. Just because you see it doesn't mean it's correct. Many people have gone down the wrong path. I can give you a prime example. In Greenville, a lot of times people will just bring me something to drink. And if they see a particular drink sitting there, they think automatically that that's the drink I like. Now, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings because I didn't bring nothing to drink myself. So I'm not going to turn down your drink. But then the next person sees that and they'll bring me the same drink that I'm trying to get rid of. But I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. So I'm going to drink their drink. Oh, Pastor like that drink. We're going to get, I'm about to pass a whole box of them drinks. Oh, then I got all the way away from what I want. And so I've learned that what people see blinds them. Ask me, what am I saying? It blinds them from communicating and finding out exactly what it is. Get the facts. Get the facts. Oh, I thought he had that banana fruit drink. Too much sugar. And the worst thing they can say, do you like it? 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 I just say, yeah. I'd be like, Jesus, they gonna have me. Because at my age, you can't have all that sugar. Because what we see, we have a tendency to follow. Ask me what I'm really saying. When you see dysfunction and it looks like it's right, still don't follow it because you're not examining the facts. Can I take it deeper? Oh, they working there. They have a Chrysler 300. I want a Chrysler 300. They got a new car. Oh, they must pay good. They locked in and can't get out. I wish somebody would talk to me. They're locked in and they can't get out because they have taken and they have overspent their money, and now they can't go nowhere. See, it's better to have less. Now watch this. This is going to sound crazy. If you got less, you got better choices. If you got more, you got to struggle to hold on. But you're going to spend it all if you're stuck in struggle and survival, and especially if your attitude get in the way. I deserve to go shopping. I want this. I want that. Now you're serving the God of me. And now how many people would like to give some things back? And they messing up everybody. Oh, no, don't give it back. Just keep it. We're just, you'll pay for it later. Just keep it. There's a whole lot of cars to be back up there on the dealership lot. Whole lot of houses be back at the mortgage place. They're like, oh no, Cletus, you keep it. Instead of 30 years, you're going to have 31. Now, if you call them people and tell them people that you can't make your payments for 3 months, I want you to understand something. That's well, no, you can do it up to a year. But here's the problem nobody's telling nobody. Yes, you can do that. But here's the reality. You still got to pay the taxes and the insurance. And instead of 30 years, you got 31 years. So you might need to be, somebody shout, less is more.
Less is more.
Now y'all want to get it. And some stuff y'all want to get back. Got that pot of chitlins. Thought you were going to have them on Easter, didn't you? They's back in the freezer. Here's what I'm saying. Because we see it doesn't mean that it's right. Here is the caveat. What we believe can set us free by following the processes of God will always lead to success. And that, my brothers and sisters, is a promise from God. Here's the thing. Last slide. Again, we have to learn the difference between fantasy, fiction, and facts. You can take me out. Want to read this? Some people in the midst of their struggle, they're saying to themselves, well, I don't feel satisfied. If you don't feel satisfied, that's about your feelings and your emotions. Here's what you should feel is progress. Even if it's an inch. Ask me why. A tree don't grow overnight. Some doors are meant to be closed. The problem is our feelings and our emotions are still behind that door. If it cannot come, if it cannot grow, if it cannot adjust with you, then you have to question yourself if it was meant to be with you. Some doors are meant to be closed, and when you try to reopen them, you remember why they were closed in the first place. And what are you saying? There's sometimes through a pandemic like this, Satan will tell you about all the relationships and the things and the people and the jobs and the times that you had because you've forgotten the pain. Can I make it plain? You've forgotten the pain, but you never learned the lesson. If you learn the lesson, because you'll start hallucinating and starting to say, well, she can do this, and if I had her, and if I had him, if I had them, if I worked over there. Listen, when you had it, they wouldn't do what they needed to do. When you had her, she wouldn't do what you needed her to do. When you had him, he wouldn't do what was needed to be done. And let me make it plain, when you were together, they wouldn't cut grass, male or female. They wouldn't do this. They did one thing, and you let Satan play in your mind and make you think one is better than 99. Sometimes your world is too small for your God. I'll say it again. Sometimes your world is too small for your God. Some doors are meant to be closed. And when you try to reopen them, you remember why they were closed in the first place. There are some things that are going to leave your life that you don't need to bring back. There are some jobs that have held you back that you need to now start examining where you need to be. There's been some financial behaviors over the last 10 years that you have not followed, you have ignored, you did not put in principles, you taught everybody else, but you never learned the lesson for yourself. And we're in a time and in a culture that we need to learn and be the example and not try to be the exception. Again, this whole beginning is learning how to close the circle. May God bless you. For the Greenville campus and the virtual campus, I will look to see you on tomorrow. God bless you.